So today I'm going to be talking about my James Bond homage watches. And, I've always loved James Bond watches. And what got me into watches was actually James Bond himself. And it was like the first time I noticed a watch on James Bond's wrist was Pierce Brosnan in the movie Die Another Day. And that was the first Bond movie that I ever watched as a kid back in, like, I don't know, 2002, 2003. And like that was like the coolest thing ever, seeing him use it with a laser, and when like he turns the bezel and it like activates the bomb and everything. And I think that is what made me like, oh yeah, I want like that watch. Like that is the James Bond watch to me. And I don't think it wasn't until the release of Skyfall that I really got into, like, knowing what the brands are, and then discovering things about Omega, and the fact that he wore Rolexes like in the older films, and even getting to know some of the clothing brands of James Bond, the things he wears, like Peel, Sunspell, what was it? Euler Bar Brown, something like that. And then I've reached a point where I realized that I can appreciate the brand itself and the craftsmanship and the design of Omega without actually needing to own the Omega brand or to have the logo. And when I discovered that there were homage watches available out there of some of my favorite watches worn by James Bond, I was like, oh man, this is a pretty good opportunity here. And I wasn't trying to pick like any homage out there. Like I was actually still like kind of like, oh, okay, like I have to check like what the movement is. And just a little backstory, but technically my first James Bond watch sort of was actually the Orient Ray 2, and this was before I found out about homage watches. And I actually recently sold it because I got the homage instead. Not because it's a bad watch or anything, but it's more like I realized that I bought that as a stand-in because I couldn't get the real Omega. And once I found out about homage watches, I realized that it was about mainly the fact that I get to have the design that I've always wanted of the perfect diver, rather than just buy like any diver that doesn't. Because like when I looked at my Orient Ray 2, like yeah, there are some similarities, but in the end, it wasn't that design. It wasn't that Seamaster design that I was looking after. And so the fact that with these homage watches, I get to have that Seamaster design without having to pay like, $7,000 on a watch, it's honestly really incredible, because I'm appreciating the design, not just like the brand itself. Even though I appreciate the craftsmanship and the fact that the designs came from that brand itself, I don't know if I'll ever reach a point where I actually feel like I want to own, or spend $7,000 to $10,000 on a watch just so that I can have that, like the real one. So we're gonna start here with my first James Bond homage watch that I got, and of course the first one I wanted to get was the one inspired by Pierce Brosnan, the Blue Seamaster with the wave dial. And this is the James Bond watch to me. This is the one that I've always wanted as a kid. And it's cool because like at first glance, this is literally a Seamaster design. The only difference that I see really is the brand name. This one is the Phylida Seamaster, and it comes with an NH35 movement. I believe it's 41 millimeters or 40.5, I'm not too sure. But yeah, it's a really beautiful watch. It's one of my favorites. I wear it all the time. The moment I'm in a Bond mood, I'm just immediately putting this one on. And it's the closest thing I get to feel like Pierce Brosnan, and to get that early 2000s feeling of GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, Die Another Day. And also it's actually kind of cool that Daniel Craig also wore a version of this in Casino Royale as well. It's not the exact same version that Pierce Brosnan wore, but it's very similar. Here's what it looks like on my wrist. I believe I have a 6-inch wrist. And some people might think that this watch is too big for my wrist and I need to get like something that's 38 or 36 millimeter. But for me personally, I think when it comes to like sporty watches, ones with big bezels, ones with a lot of things going on with them, if it's under 42 millimeters, I think it works well on me. Like I know that if I were to have like a 38 millimeter diver, I would think that it's way too small and it just doesn't feel right. And I think 42 millimeter is the max the maximum for me when it comes to like dive watches, sports watches. But to me, when it comes to more sportier watches, the bigger the better. So yeah, the Phylida Seamaster Blue Wave Dial. So the next watch I have here is the Watchdives Aquaterra, and this one is 38 millimeters. And you know, contrary to the Seamaster, even if this one is still a sporty watch, I think it's a blend of dressy and sporty, and so the dial doesn't have really a lot going on. And I think for a watch of this design, it's much more preferable for me, at least on my wrist, to have it, you know, less than 40 millimeters. So this being a 38 is actually perfect. The lug width is 20 millimeters as well. Actually, all my watches have the lug width of 20 millimeters, so that's perfect for me. But you know, this one is inspired by the one worn by Daniel Craig in Skyfall. The only difference is that the teak dial is horizontal lines, and I know that Daniel Craig wears the one with the vertical lines. I prefer the one with the vertical lines just because of, you know, movie accuracy. But I'm actually perfectly fine with this one too. This is actually inspired by the actual Omega Aquaterra, and I actually put it on a similar rubber strap, the ones from Omega. So yeah, here is the Watchdives Aquaterra on my 6-inch wrist. It looks amazing. You know, 38 millimeter for this, you know, design is actually perfect. Actually, you know, here's the cool deploying clasp on the strap, in the rubber strap here. It's not exactly like the one, like I said, the one worn by Daniel Craig in Skyfall, or even the one in like Spectre in the beginning of No Time to Die, but you know, it's still, I would still consider this like a Bond watch. And to make it even more Bond, you'd probably have to put it on like a steel bracelet, but I prefer this watch on this rubber strap. And my last Bond watch is the Watchdives WD007, and this is the homage to the one in No Time to Die, and this is my most expensive one out of the bunch, mainly because the watch is in titanium, and the titanium makes it worth it, because I've seen a bunch of homages to the No Time to Die watch, and a lot of them come with in a stainless steel case, and you know, it just looks off. You know, the stainless steel with the, you know, the brown and the beige color, like, I don't know, something looks off, because I think the brown and the style of the colors, they work well with the titanium. And you know, whenever I see it with the stainless steel case, it just looks off to me. And so when it comes to homages, I don't just, you know, pick whatever that looks like, you know, the real thing, but you know, more like I have to actually see, like, oh, is this titanium? What's the movement like? And I look at all these details as well before choosing an homage. I don't just pick any random. And I originally bought this with the exact NATO strap provided by Omega, the one with like the gray and the beige lines, but I ended up buying like a separate mesh bracelet. I wish I could wear the official the bracelet that has like a deploying clasp, the one exactly like in No Time to Die, the one from Omega. But I actually noticed that they probably don't have enough holes for you know, for my wrist, and I would need to add like another hole. And I don't think like AliExpress sells one that's suitable for, you know, smaller wrists like mine, so I had to go with the traditional, like these types of mesh bracelets here. But here's it on my wrist. I'm gonna put it on. There you go. Looks amazing. Oh my god, this is honestly one of my best watches. You know, there are some cases where I look at this watch and I'm like, this is possibly better than the Blue Wave Dial Seamaster, but yeah, I mean, this is just unbelievable. Like with the titanium, like if this wasn't titanium, this would look like a really ugly watch in my personal taste. But the fact that this titanium paired with the brown dial, the brown bezel, the beige numerals, and the indices, it's just perfect, seriously. But yeah, those are my 3 James Bond homage watches. I remember once like thinking I would want to get like the Spectre one, but there's something about the homage version of it, and that, I don't know, I'm still debating whether I actually do want it or not. I just don't want to get, I don't want to be that person that just wants to get every, you know, James Bond watch out there, because like the Spectre one, like, it's definitely a beautiful watch, but there are some details that are missing in some of the homage versions. I even considered like building my own version of it as well. So I'm still debating if I really do want that one. Probably not, and I'm actually okay with just these 3 for now. But yeah, what did you guys think of this video? Let me know in the comments, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. See ya.